Hello guys, thank you for joining me on BDD with Cucumber. We will learn how to write test cases with clicking language with Cucumber. Please stay with me on this journey to learn more on this interesting topic. Please like and subscribe. This motivates me to put more learning sessions for you. Thank you. We have been writing test cases to test our code, but majority of the time we do it to pass the static code analysis. The test cases we wrote do not make sense to business stakeholders and analysts. Business driven development, or BDD, shifts the thinking from tests to thinking in terms of business. This helped increase the collaboration between business stakeholders, business analysts, QA team, and developers. It extends test driven development, or TDD, by utilizing natural language that non technical stakeholders can understand. In this session, we will focus on BDD with Cucumber. The main feature of Cucumber is that it focuses on acceptance testing. It made it easy for anyone in the team to read and write tests, and with this feature, it brings business users into the test process, helping teams to explore and understand requirements. For this session, we will use Java 8, Maven 3.6, and the development ID of your choice. So I'm using Eclipse for this session. We can enable Cucumber in a Java Maven project. We have two options for doing that. First is Maven archetype, and another is putting the dependency into the project directly, into the POM file. I'll show both the methods, but we'll start off with Maven archetype. For generating the project using Maven archetype, we have to use command Maven archetype generate. This is the command that we will be using for generating Maven archetype project for Cucumber. And as you can see, we have multiple options to this command. First is the Maven archetype group ID. We have given a value ID Cucumber, archetype artifact ID, archetype version. These three defines which template we need to pull out for the archetype. These has to be the exact values for pulling out the template. Group ID, artifact ID, and version. With these values, your project in local will be created, and the group ID would be Hello Cucumber. Artifact, it could be anything, but I have given Hello Cucumber. Version 1.0.0-snapshot. You can give any version that. And if I change any of the values in archetype, group ID, artifact, or version, it may not be able to find the project in the Maven repository, Maven central repository. Hence, it has to be same value here so that it matches and pulls out the template for you. I'll execute this command. It will pull out the values required here. So now the project is ready, and you can see this project is created in this directory. Now I'll pull this project in Eclipse and show you the other method that we can use for enabling a project with Cucumber. Few minutes ago, we created a Maven for Cucumber. Now we will import this project in Eclipse. We will quickly scan the POM XML file here. So these two are the dependencies that we need for enabling any project with Cucumber. So in this, we are using 5.6.0 version. You must have seen that when we created a project with archetype, we provided a version with the same value there. So the scope for these are test. Obviously, this will not be part of our build. Do let me know in comment section if you want to understand more on the archetype and the Maven. The next step now is to have a Cucumber plugin. We can install it by clicking on install new software. We have put this URL here. I'll put the URL in the comment section and select this one and do next. Since I have this already, it will not let me install. Now we have the Cucumber plugin installed. Let's create a feature. Right click, new, others, search for a file, and say employee. Eclipse Cucumber plugin creates a template feature file for us to start with. It contains comments, as you can see, starting with hash, scenarios, scenario outlines, tags, examples. We will remove the template generated by Eclipse and we'll start writing our own feature file. Employee management. Let's talk about the application we will create. Application will allow user to create the employee, and check if the user is present or not. So this is the simple use case we have to showcase BDD with Cucumber. We'll start writing the scenarios for this feature. Trying to add a scenario where we allow to add an employee. In this, we'll say given I have an employee with name, say Amar, and salary, say 30,000. When I add this employee to company systems, then new employee with name Amar should be added successfully. Line number 20 starts with a keyword feature followed by a name. A good practice to have this name same as your file name. See, we have employee management feature. We'll have employee management with a space in between in the feature file. We can have another line after feature that would be kind of a documentation for this feature. This line is not executed by Cucumber and will be ignored. The next line is the scenario, add an employee. The last three lines starting with given, when, and then are the steps of our scenario, that is what Cucumber will execute. This is also a valid example of writing how you specify the conditions. So I'll move back to the previous state. This completes a feature file with the simplest functionality to add an employee and verify if that employee is added successfully or not. Feature files build common understanding of the business requirement. This also defines the domain object for the application. So in this case, we have an employee domain object. We can also play around with the sequence of the given, when, and then. The order of the given, when, and then do not matter, but that will make your scenarios less readable. Let's run this feature file and see what do we get. Alright, let's examine the output here. For this scenario, we have an undefined scenario here, add an employee. This has 3 steps to it, all are undefined, and Cucumber plugin has given us a stub for these steps definition. So we can copy the step definition and create Java file, say employee management steps, and we'll paste these steps here. Oh, we have to organize the inputs. Let's examine what we have got from the stub. These are the same conditions that we have put in our feature file. All the quotes are replaced by the placeholders value here. Name is replaced by string, and the value, the integer value, the number that I've put in salary is replaced by integer here. The name of the method doesn't matter. If I want to say given condition, it will also work. Verify. So with these names also it works. All that matters is what we have inside quote for a respective given, when, or then. When a feature file is executed, it interpolates the value that we have given in the quotes with the one that we have already for a given, when, or then conditions. If it matches, it executes the specific method here. So let's execute this feature file again and see what we get. Alright, now we don't have any more undefined scenario. Instead we have a pending scenario and pending step and 2 skipped. The reason being is, if you look at the steps, when this line is executed, we are immediately throwing a pending exception, which stops the execution of the subsequent steps. That is why we have 2 skipped and 1 pending exception. Now let's remove this pending exception and process out and see how this test case is executed. Then, so now if we run our feature file, we'll no longer see a pending exception because we're not throwing anyone now. It says 1 scenario passed and 3 steps executed successfully. And these are the scenarios which we executed. Right? Let's see this is out here. We have given, when, and then. Let's remove this is outs and start writing the actual code. So we are doing an employee management. So let's create an employee. Before that, let's refactor the variable names that we got from this stub. We make it name and salary. Employee name salary. As we don't have the employee class available already, so we'll, with the help of Eclipse, we'll create this class. Not in the test though. We'll have 3 attributes in this class. Let's import this class. Oh, here, now we have a problem. We don't have an ID here because we can't create an employee with the ID. So let's remove it here. Now we have the employee here from the given condition, and on this condition we need to add the employee. So for this we'll create a service which will allow us to add an employee and verify if an employee already exists. So these 2 operations will be available in this service. Now we have the employee service ready, which will add an employee or check if an employee is already existing. So this is the simplest of the implementation that we could have. We have a list of employee variable here. In the object, in the constructor, we're creating a list of employee here, and we have defined 2 operations. First is add, and another is employee exists or not. So in add employee, we are doing is we're checking the size of this employee object, employee list, and incrementing 1 to it, and then setting the ID as a next employee ID in the employee object that we are getting in this function. And then we are adding it to the employee list, and we're returning the employee ID. An employee exist function, as we can see, this method returns boolean. We are iterating through the employees list, and we are comparing for each employee the name with the input name, and if it matches, we are breaking the loop and setting the variable is exists to true. Otherwise it will be false if there is no match, and we are returning. So this is the simplest of the implementation that we can have for adding and checking if an employee already exists. As per the given condition, employee is ready here with the instance. Now in when clause, we need to add employee to the employee database. So we'll first do is we'll create an instance of employee service, right, and employee. We have an error here because employee is not available, so we need to take this variable declaration outside of given method, like so, and this will add the employee. Once we have added the employee as per the when condition, now it's time to verify if an employee is added successfully or not. So for this, we'll call the function on employee service is employee exists, and we specify the name here. We'll just refactor the name, take the method output into a variable, and we will use JUnit framework to assert from org.junit dot assert true, and we'll put the expected here. So now let's run the step function, and it should execute the code that we have written. Alright, so this says that one scenario is executed and it passed, and there were 3 steps in it and all 3 passed successfully. We have seen one way of how we can write the given condition. Another is we break the given condition into 2 using AND. So we have given condition which says I have an employee with name Amar and salary. So I'll break this into 2 with the help of AND clause here. This will throw an error because we don't have given functions which takes 1 argument. We have a function which takes 2 arguments which supports this functionality. Now we have to create 2 because we don't have a function which defines with 1 argument each, 1 for name and 1 for salary. Let's copy the stub generated by this, and before we do that, let's analyze what we got here. There were 2 scenarios, right? There were 2 scenarios, add employee and flavor 1 and flavor 2. There were total 7 steps, 3 passed, this one passed, 2 undefined because of this, and 2 skipped. These 2 were skipped. Let's open the steps definition here, and we'll define 2 more steps here. Name string, and here, since in our employee class we removed the setters for name and salary, we'll put them back like so. And I'll format this class and save. Since we already have an employee available here, this is my first given condition which will be executed for scenario 2. So since I don't have a salary here, so I'll put 0, and I'll put name here. I'll change the variable names to match. And this will be executed next. Here I can directly set the salary. I'll change the variable name here, right, and when and then will remain the same. Let's execute it with the different attributes here. Let's give it a run. Alright, so there were 2 scenarios, 7 steps and 7 passed. We have got 3 steps in one scenario and 4 steps in another scenario, which makes it 7. We can have another flavor of add employee with a salary in decimal. Here we are defining a salary in double, and this is expecting a given clause with a double. So we'll create a stub, back again in the steps, again back in the gallery here, and we'll do the same. But we don't support double here. Let's change the type of a salary object, make it double. To differentiate the integer and decimal, I've just given an off keyword before salary so that Cucumber don't face any issues matching integer and double. So let's give it a run. I've changed the correspondingly in the definition file as well. So now we have got 3 scenarios, 11 steps, which passed successfully. Alright, now we have our feature file ready. Let's build the project and see if test cases are running or not. We'll do Maven test. Let's see if test cases are running or not. Hope you understand why it's not working, because we don't have any file which will initiate the feature file to execute. So we need to have a test runner which will execute our test cases, because we'll not be using Eclipse to run the test cases. To execute the test cases outside of a feature file, we need to create a test case runner. So let's give it a name, maybe test case runner. And we'll call as save project test case runner. Okay, we'll use some annotations. First is run with, let's say run with Cucumber. And another is that we'll be using is Cucumber options. First, we need to define the features, location from where we can execute our test cases. The next is the step definition location. That's not you do it, you define using glue. Okay, so we have to give the absolute location, because this test runner takes the base location as your project, and from the project onwards we need to define the location. So we can do like this. Feature, or if you have multiple feature file, we can do like that. Or if we have multiple feature file in a folder and we want to run a selective file, we can do like that. This features takes an array of string, so I can define here as say employee management 2 feature, like that. If I want to run everything in my folder, I would say like that. And here we specify just the name of the package where we have the step definitions. And let's give it a run. Yeah, so all those 3 scenarios ran successfully, which had 11 steps and all passed. And we got a JUnit style runner as well. We've got all the scenarios mentioned here. Every test case should end with test. So now if we go to terminal and run this should run our project as well. Maven test command executed our test case, which had 3 scenarios, 11 steps, and it has three tests which ran successfully. This calls the end for part 1, and in the subsequent parts we'll discuss the additional Cucumber concepts like tagging, Maven test with tags, adding background, execution flows, hooks, and reports. We'll also discuss about the automation of the web pages and the APIs. Please stay tuned for the upcoming sessions on Cucumber. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. This will help me a lot. Thank you.